My name is The Political Kid, and I'm with my friend, and he's going to be interviewing me about politics in America now, politics in America in the future, and just general questions about me personally. So, why don't you say hi?
Hi.
Okay, and so we're gonna get to the first question, and just a reminder: this is not scripted. This is not anything. This is his ideas alone. So I just want to say that. So you're free to ask the first question.
All right. So, what do you think about like the general situation that America's in right now?
It's a pretty bad position, considering domestically and in foreign issues, specifically foreign issues, because domestically we're fine, and we probably would have been at the same level if Harris was, except for the ICE problem, which I will get into. But uh, on the international front, there's been many issues with Europe and like just our declining view of other countries to us because of the things we've kind of said and the things that we've been kind of preparing to do, like Greenland and all that. And we've been saying so we've kind of damaged our foreign relations, but we can recover, and we have in the past. So it's not all bad, but it's not good either. And on the domestic front, ICE is not doing well at all, specifically in like Minnesota. And I mean, there's many Americans who think that yeah, we should have some version of ICE to control like our illegal immigration and border patrol, but the kind of way they've been operating is just too much, and they need to reform it or disband it and then make a new system. So that's kind of my take for the most part for the current situation.
Can you like talk more about like our foreign relations with Russia right now? Because I think they could be like, I mean, they play a key role in our politics.
Yes, they do play a key role in our politics, mostly because for the past like century, Russia and the US have kind of been seen as polar opposites on the international front, which is kind of true, but specifically within the past few years, that's kind of been meddled with, and many of our allies in Europe has been kind of worried that we might get closer to Russia and possible Russian expansion into Eastern Europe, which is a valid concern, but we also want to be have good relations with our other major powers on the world so we could avoid nuclear war and like stop conflict. So, yeah, I think some more normalization of Russian relations so we could try to eventually end the Ukraine war that is fair for both sides, which, I mean, the Trump administration has given a bit more leeway to Russia, but I think that is only because they want to jumpstart negotiations, and maybe they could, like, go back to it once they're in negotiations. So, I mean, on international relations with Russia, we're doing bad, but we are recovering from the era that we had of like, we're not going to talk to you, we're just going to sanction you and all that. We're kind of getting back to talking, and I think that's good. But we also have to remember they are opposed to us in almost every single way on the international front.
What about the European Union? I mean, I kind of think that the European Union has like, I mean, we've been drifting away from them because of the Trump administration, and I don't really know what to think about that. Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, obviously, there's many people that are like favoring this kind of view, since a free trade doesn't help everybody. It does help a lot of small business owners and business owners, but it doesn't really help the worker, which the Trump administration has been kind of pushing for. However, the majority of Americans aren't actually hands on workers, unfortunately. So it does affect us when tariffs are hit, and then our relations are kind of now like in the down, like it's just worsening with the European Union, because the European Union, it's becoming more of not just an economic alliance anymore, but more of an actual political organization, or more of a political organization, because of the kind of opposition to the Trump administration that we have nowadays.
So going back to America, how do you think the midterms will go? Like, do you think the Republicans will stay strong, or like Democrats will come back because of the, I mean, the recent like performance of the Trump administration with all the ICE violence and all that?
Well, I believe that Democrats will win probably one Senate race, and or they'll win more than one Senate race, but that's not what I meant. I meant like a Senate race to change the amount in the Senate by like one for the Democrats. So it'd be like, I forget if it's 53 to 47 or 52 to 48 right now, but it'll go to the Democrats probably by one. I mean, the Trump administration has done really bad in its special elections with the state senators and state representatives and also representatives have shown there is a swing, so the Democrats will probably win the House of Representatives, but the states that are up for the Senate elections are more conservative, and that's kind of a big deal when Democrats want to like swing both parts of Congress to the Democratic side, but they might only get the representative side and not the Senate side. So obviously the Democrats will perform better. I can't really see a situation where they won't, but yeah, they'll kind of need this midterms to go at least one part of the House or Senate to go well. Because if they don't, then that's another 2 years at least that Republicans will have to push further agenda, which Democrats obviously hate. So, yeah, that's kind of my position for the Democrats. And the Republicans also just need to try to show what they've been doing, since many Americans are opposed to their ideology, since for many it's either way too extreme, or it didn't go far enough, or it's good but we need more of this, like more of these bills, which is a tough position to be in when everybody wants more from you, because you can't appease everybody when you're trying to appease, when like you only control your base, the kind of opinion of your base. So obviously they're gonna have a tough time, but they will probably be able to keep the Senate in a Republican majority.
And what about the independent parties? I mean, they've never been too prominent, but they're still kind of decline. They've been declining in the past couple of years, and what do you think will happen to them now? Because I mean, I don't really know if any of those two big parties, like the Democrats or Republicans, are very favorable right now.
Yes, when two particular sets of parties are unpopular, and yes, Democrats are also unpopular, but they're also seen as a little bit more popular than Republicans, so obviously they're going to do better in these elections. But when both sides have done like relatively bad things to the country, and there's more attention being brought to, hey, what if we vote for other political parties? I mean, we have that, and that has kind of been brought before, because for the past decade, I mean, either a party was more popular than one, and we haven't really had a situation where both were relatively unpopular. I mean, our political system for the past decade has been like unpopular parties because of the polarization, but usually because of this, they're very inclined to turn out more and in turn like vote more based on the polarization. However, there's been kind of a mixing of more moderates, the silent majority that Richard Nixon always talked about. They are kind of agreeing that either Trump is doing way too much or he shouldn't be doing this at all. And those sides are kind of agreeing, hey, they're not doing well. And hey, there's libertarians and Greens. And hey, even in the 21st century, there is still socialists in America, and there's going to be more prominence for them, but not enough to actually win any House, Senate, and definitely not presidential elections within the next few decades. But they will get more attention for probably the next few years and decades because of the unpopularity of both parties.
Yeah. So as you just said, I mean what are they called? Independent parties are like never pretty popular because of the way, I mean, Americans, when they vote, they like, and if they want to vote for an independent party, they're probably not gonna anyways, because they think it won't matter because nobody else gonna vote for them. So they just vote for like one of the two big parties that they like more. Is there like any way that the independent parties could like try to like combat this, to like try to make more people like vote for the who they actually want instead of just like choosing their second best option?
Yeah. In 1992, Ross Perot won almost 19% of the popular vote. He didn't win any electoral votes, but he won 19% of the popular vote, which was the best performance of a third party outside of the South since Teddy Roosevelt. So we've got to remember nowadays the parties don't change people, people change the parties. And you've seen that with Trump and a lot of figures within the Democrat Party like Bernie Sanders and AOC nowadays. And because of this, if independents actually want to get like more favorable bills and results to help them do better in American elections, they probably need a relatively strong character who's appealing to every person on the political aisle, which is hard to do. But like if you have a broadened base, you could get like you probably won't win any state, but you probably get a lot of votes in the popular vote. So you could change an administration coming in if you say, hey, we'll support your cause if you support our cause to allow voters to have, say, ranked choice voting or other styles of voting that helps people express their opinions more and the representative based democracy that kind of allows polarization in a two-party system to kind of exist.
So going back to ICE, I mean, the major media outlets have been like covering mostly the stories of like violence in like Minnesota and like all those extreme things. But like besides all that, how do you think like ICE is doing generally with their like main goal?
Their main goal of trying to prevent more illegal immigrants coming in and rooting out the illegal immigrants that have been going out has is a favorable goal to the American people as Trump's most like vote based idea that he was voted in by was immigration. I mean, most the polls show that it is still his most popular idea and kind of like issue. However, just because it's its most popular doesn't mean it's actually popular. I mean, he's an unpopular president, so I mean, most people are kind of divided on this even more because of that. So ICE definitely does have a good goal. However, because of the political systems and how ICE has kind of been promoted to the American people of people who want to join this organization and like the ways that they do this, it's become just too extreme in how they do these things and like to the point that people are covering themselves up with masks, not even wanting to show their faces to their friends and family for what they are doing, which is a big problem. So we need to kind of reform the system if we want to have ICE actually achieve its goals without doing as extreme like things to the American domestic front.
I mean, I know this is a sensitive topic, but about the Israel and Palestine conflict. So, what do you think about like the current approach America has taken to the conflict, and like, what would you change about it? What would you do? And I mean, I'm not asking for your like general opinion, but what do you think could like help resolve the conflict?
I feel like if Americans do want an end to the conflict, which many do, however, they have different ideas on how it should end. Many people who want to people who want to keep the status quo say, hey, we should have a two-state solution. It doesn't really work. Many people want a one-state for Palestine, which also doesn't really work, and one single state for Israel, which also doesn't really work. So how do we solve this? Well, many people want a Jewish state and also an Arab and Muslim state within Palestine. However, when we have these things, it's just too extreme on one side of a religion and another that we should have people just live out their lives the way we want. I mean, here we might be considered a Christian nation, but not really, and we should kind of have that ideology when it comes to the Levant, the Holy Land. So we should have a one state where there's like the government officials aren't promoting their single like religion, so it's a secular society because honestly Palestinians just want to live in their homeland, so we'll allow them to do that. And also for the Israelis, we'll allow them to do that. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, especially now that the British can't do anything about it anymore. So, I mean, we need to set this policy that we're willing to negotiate, and if we want to get a better position on the international front, we need to show that we're willing to compromise and not just like give a one state like no Palestine area and only have Israel there. We shouldn't have that. So that's kind of my idea for if I was president, which we might talk on later based on what he chose for our topics. But it's an unpopular statement, but I think it's one that will be a little more better in the long term, honestly.
All right. So I mean, in the media, I mean, it's mostly talking about the Israel-Palestine conflict and the Russian-Ukraine conflict, but many conflicts like such as the Sudanese war, the ongoing right now. I mean, most Americans don't even know about it. How do you think America should like react and like help dissolve diffuse the situation like going on? Yeah, Sudan.
Well, obviously, we need to have those kind of progressive Teddy Roosevelt symbols on standings on the international stage, which is to stay humble but carry a big stick, which we have done in some years, but in some years it's stay humble and slowly decrease the size of your stick, and it's not stay humble and have a very large stick and then hit those people. So we've had different types of ideas of this kind of foreign policy, and obviously other conflicts that is not in the Middle East and in Europe is not going to be as recognized by the public because honestly, we have just a bias to kind of pay more attention to European and like Asian conflicts that are going on because unfortunately, Americans don't really care what happens in Africa and say like other parts of the world, which sucks. And we need to change that and make sure that every country that is going through a war right now can get like a whole peace deal and have their conflict resolved by the American world police should be focusing on stuff for all of its citizens, like all of the world. If we're really the world police, we should pay attention to everybody. So that's kind of my position.
What about like the stance on like America first, where like we should only care about America and like not about the other countries, and like we should uh, try to get as powerful as like strong of a country as we can, but like not really try to invest our materials or like resources or anything into other countries, just like focusing on ourselves. What do you think about that?
Obviously, there's going to be many people who want America first, including our president and vice president and the administration right now. But when you see how the American economy actually works, we have a lot of businesses invested into specifically European industries and industries like investments in other parts of the world, including Asia with its technology and the stuff that we kind of have. So obviously, we need some implementation for guardrails for our own workers so we could get like kind of a fair deal for that. But having America first isn't really a good policy when most Americans rely on foreign imports and stuff like that. So we need to make sure we have a fair deal, a square deal, even like Teddy Roosevelt wanted. So we could have that happen, but we need to be willing to negotiate in a position of strength, honestly. So we have shown the world that we could be by ourselves, but we need to also realize we shouldn't be by ourselves because if we're by ourselves, we're just going to become isolationist, more authoritarian, and be less open to investments from other countries. So that's why I don't really agree with the policy America First, but we should have a policy of America first at the negotiations, you know? It's like to be the one presenting all of our like ideas to have a better stance for trade deals and conflicts.
So what do you think about our like relationship with China? I mean things have been going a bit rough, but they're like one of our biggest trading partners. And what do you think? How do you think our relationship with China will like be in the future, and what do you hope it will be like in the future?
Well, This is a difficult one. Since the end of the Soviet Union, the Chinese Communist Party has been on the rise, specifically for their economy, as more Asian economies have been getting more attention due to their ability to produce a lot of materials in a short amount of time, which is not, unfortunately not how workers are in America, but it's only because we actually protect our workers. Because unfortunately, there's not going to be as many labor laws in more Asian parts because of the kind of culture that they have there. And like because of communism and like all that, and like more acceptance of communism and that kind of ideology. So obviously, we have to realize that China's there to stay. Taiwan's not going to control the mainland anymore. We can't have that idea, but we need to make sure that we have a fair deal for both American workers who are exporting to China because they do take some stuff from us. But we also need to make sure that we aren't so reliant on the Chinese economy. Say we could, I don't know, there's other Asian countries than China. Did you know that? So we could increase our imports from, say, Vietnam. Even though they're a communist nation and we've had some pretty tense,
Yeah, I think our relationship with
relationships.
them is getting a
Yeah,
lot
but
better.
it's been getting a lot better, and like they're a reliable partner, honestly. And also with Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Indonesia, these are places that also have the same ability as China, but because of the massive population and the massive kind of area that they control, we usually have them as our main trading partner. So for our position, we should negotiate with them, and obviously know that they're there to stay. Unfortunately, but we need to make sure that we also don't heavily rely on them.
So yeah, about Taiwan. So how do you think like we could like strengthen our relationship with Taiwan without like weakening our relationship with China? Because I mean, Taiwan is an unrecognized breakaway state from China, and um, yeah, so they have like pretty tense relations, if any relations at all. So, but and Taiwan is a pretty good trading partner, but so is China. So, how to like keep relationships, our relations with both countries good?
Done what we've been doing for the past few decades. I mean, as you could see, Taiwan is the biggest chip manufacturer, and they're not able to build as many manufacturing manufacturing industries in other places, say in Asia, for these chip industries. So obviously, we need to keep Taiwan independent, especially since we're the defenders of democracy, and they're the democratic China, even though they're not really China, but like they have some preservation of a Chinese identity. So we do need to protect them and to kind of stop like Chinese expansion, say in like eastern Turkestan that the Chinese communists have done, and also in Tibet. We need to kind of stop that expansion and make sure that, hey, you're not going to get this because they want to stay here, so they could stay here. And honestly, we're so reliant on them. I mean, it would be an amazing thing if they were to finally reunite and have an actual fair democracy system. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen as relationships with them are so polarized that nothing could really be done. So the best we could do for now is to kind of play into this rivalry so we could eventually, hopefully, get in negotiations for finally uniting. Or if the Taiwanese are so disconnected to the Chinese mainland, because honestly, they've been away for like 80 years. So, in the mainland Formosians, who have been living there for centuries, and then Chinese immigrants came, and so they've had this whole conversation on whether they should be a Chinese Kuomintang state or an independent Formosa state. And because of that, we need to just keep defending them until they can figure out what they're gonna do.
All right, another question about foreign politics. How are like our relations with Canada? I mean, they were like pretty tense at the beginning because I mean Trump's being like was talking about Canada being the 51st state, but now I mean it's not being talked about as much. So
Yeah, obviously it's not going to be talked about as much as if we're not even going to go for a thing as Greenland, since we have been also trying to get that, but we're not getting it anytime soon. and honestly, that's a good thing. So the Canadian relationship has definitely gone down, and honestly, the Trump administration single-handedly elected Mark Carney into the office of Prime Minister because of the opposition to Americanization of Canada. However, due to this, we don't have the capacity to really reconcile until like years after the Trump administration, because these are relative threats. This is a country where it's 9 to 10 times their population. So if we were to go with with them, and they didn't have any allies, we would crush them, obviously, since they're so close to our border, and we need to make sure we may need to like connect on a level to the Canadians. We're not going to do that. That's like some really far off fantasy for a lot of American expansionists. And that's a very minority opinion in the American space. And we're going to make sure that we have decent relations with also countries abroad and countries literally right next to us. So we needed to make sure that we kind of reconcile on the issues that no, we're not going to take Canada, and we should be working together closely more.
Could you elaborate more on like how the Trump administration like helped Mark Carney get into the office?
Well, Trump and the administration, for the kind of transition period into their administration, Trudeau resigned because of a lot of criticism on his front in his nation, and then because of that, there's this gaping hole of, hey, the Conservatives in Canada are probably going to win because of how unpopular Trudeau was. But then Donald Trump came along, and now there's a lot of patriotism and kind of rally around the flag effect, which is basically when your country's in a desperate situation, so you rally around the current party in charge, which was the Liberals. And due to that effect, the Mark Carney and the Liberals were able to get a close election swing in approval ratings, and then barely win the election. And I'm also going to make sure the Conservatives didn't lose, the Liberals won. I mean, the Conservatives and Liberals both gained seats. It's just the independent and third party candidates that lost. And it's also a sign that, hey, the Americanization is already starting in Canada, which is a bad thing, especially when we want to improve relations with them. So that's kind of why I think that Trump kind of handed another term to the Liberals. So, yeah.
All right, going back one more time to ICE. So, what kind of reforms do you think like uh, the government could make to ICE? Because I mean, some of the recent approaches have been radical, like what happened in Minneapolis. I mean, shooting people. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, shooting a person is not a very how do I say reasonable response to what the person is doing. So, what kind of like
I mean,
yeah,
obviously, but
what kind of reforms would you like make to ICE to make sure like nothing like what was happening in Minneapolis for the past couple of weeks, or like any of the violent things or mistakes that ICE has made happen again.
so we have three ways we could go. Professionalism, kind of reform the whole system by like actually abolishing ICE and then make a whole new system for a new border patrol. So even though that is a radical solution, we could have a new kind of homeland security enforcement that is more professional, and we could start all over again to make sure that ICE doesn't really happen. Second option, which is identification. I mean, many of these people don't have body cams. They don't have like their names. They hide their like face because they're scared to like show to the American public like who they are. Because I mean, these are American citizens and ICE agents that are. I mean, they murdered a few people in Minneapolis, and we need to make sure that at the very least, they get some more identification and like body cams and such. And the third option, we don't have it. We shouldn't have it in the first place, and we should make sure that our police are kind of integrated into the system so we could have a more reformed police system that is also able to combat illegal immigration at the same time. So we could either reform it by abolishing it, we could reform it with identification, or we could integrate them with another organization in the federal government. So, yeah, that's kind of. So this is the part of the video where I think, hopefully, that Adrian will shift towards more issues about my possible election in the 2048 election, which I am running in. So, hopefully, do you want to ask me some questions on that, or do you want to just like talk more about domestic issues?
So hold up, let me think of something. I haven't thought that over much. So uh, what are like, what like do you think what we could do for like immigration? I mean, what's your stance on immigration? Like, should we let a lot of immigrants in like Canada did? Because I mean, it has worked out pretty well for them, but there are some problems. But like, what do you think we should like limit immigration a lot and make it like hard for like um, newer immigrants to come in?
We need to make sure we put more resources into people who may who pass to like people who make immigrants into full citizens. We need to give more resources to them so it doesn't take weeks or months or even years to finally become a citizen. And that's my first part of immigration. And the second part, if they pay taxes, they follow the laws, and they've kind of like nobody's really asked them about their immigration status, and they've been a valuable part of the community, they should have some repercussions because they illegally immigrated, but they shouldn't be deported and stuff like that. They should just have more pressure on them to actually become a full citizen because that's what we kind of want in America. And then third of all, we should probably have more immigrants coming in, but we need to make sure that they're able to kind of assimilate into the American like culture, because so they're not like, what is going on? Like, what are these Americans doing? We don't want like that to happen, especially when like there's more race riots. We don't want that happening. We don't want more polarization. So we should have a step where we're able to communicate what happens and what you should be prepared for the culture in America, so we could properly assimilate more people, so we could help our economy, and it can make us look better on the international stage, especially since we're accepting immigrants less than other countries like in Europe, for example, up on percentage wise, so that's kind of, if I were president, I would kind of take that stance, which is not usual for a Republican candidate. But I also want to make sure that I'm moderate enough so it could appeal to the silent majority, to say.
So on abortion, so my personal stance is that I mean, I don't really know if it's like an important thing to discuss in like governmental terms. Like government's like um supposed to like manage the country, I guess. But what do you think? Like, should like abortions be like something a major government topic, or should I mean, yeah, it just be like a social topic that like
As a Republican in the libertarian slash moderate ring, if we since we don't regulate people on what they say, we don't regulate people on what they do in their home, and we don't regulate like what like what they think, like, you know, think about certain issues, we shouldn't be able to regulate what people could do to their body. Obviously, we should have kind of a system for, we shouldn't really federally support abortion clinics and such, because that's for the people who are getting this to kind of have. So we should make abortions available for people who do want can't really afford to have a baby, because if we have that happen, that's just going to lead to a worse life for the parents and the baby, who, I mean, honestly, with a situation, if a parent cannot afford a baby, it just gets even worse. So we need to have abortions available for people but we shouldn't have so much intervention in this where we're supporting this. Safe, legal, rare. Where it's safe to have it, it's legal so you don't have to worry about any repercussions, and it's rare so we could support more contraceptive methods so we could avoid this in the first place.
So what do you think about like government-owned companies? Like, for example, I mean, Russia is a state-sponsored what's it called? Capitalist state, and I mean, it owns a lot of the businesses. For example, the like,
Gazprom.
yeah, Gazprom. Like many other countries do this. I mean, I think like a lot of the business shouldn't be like government-owned, but I mean, I think it would be good to have some government-owned businesses. What's your stance on that?
I don't think we should have government owned businesses because they honestly, I mean, they're more stable in an economy, so they won't collapse because they're literally owned by the state. But that also means that we'll take on more debt, and that the state will control more of the American public. So, what we should put is guardrails to make sure that corporations don't turn into monopolies, and also guardrails to make sure that businesses aren't exploiting a certain industry, like say AI, which will probably be a there will probably be a bubble burst within the next few years in the AI economy, which will then transcend in 2048. There'll probably be a question on how would you like avoid the AI bubble burst. So bubble burst, economic crash. And I would say for that, we just need to make guardrails so this doesn't become such a 2008 Great Recession. And we need to make sure that it's not so like trusted that one misstep and one investor that says uh, sell, sell, sell doesn't crash the whole economy. So we need to make sure that no, the state should not control companies, very big companies, but it should also make sure that the American economy doesn't go in the trash. So that's kind of my stance on it as a moderate Republican libertarian, which is a very long description, but as you could see by my policies, I think eventually you would be able to understand my positions.
All right, so yeah, I would say I'm pretty right wing, like Republican myself, but one stance that like is more like left wing about me is on climate change. I mean, most uh most of the time, like in America, the United States of America, Republicans are like don't do much about climate change, but I think like we should do be doing more about it because it's very important to like not just our country but the whole world that our environment and the world just stays like a healthy place. I mean, so what do you think? What do you think about that? Do you think like we should be doing more about climate change and investigating more, like funding it more, or
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't want my kids or grandkids, if I were to have some, to be living in a world with a worse climate, and like possibly with degrees up to like 5 degrees hotter in temperatures, like. And like this, it will take a while for the heat to eventually increase, but we've also been seeing this with how like this last year or this year was the hottest like year on record. So this is an issue. And to anybody who says climate change isn't real, like okay, put your tinfoil hat on, because it's real, and we need to make sure that we need to get back into the Paris Accord that we left out of. We need to make sure we need to pressure states and countries like India and China to put more regulations in their industries, and we need to make sure that this becomes a more acceptable thing to have, and like because to the American public, this is like, what? I never heard about this before, so I'm not going to change my views on this. We need to make sure this is a more acceptable like idea to have, so we can more prepare for the green kind of bills and stuff that we would probably sign, including like tax cuts for people who use like bikes or electrical cars other than like gas cars, so we could have these sort of incentives, and also incentives to other countries who honestly do have a more impact on the economy, say China, because they're the literal worker, they're the shop of the world. I mean, they have the most exports than any other nation. So we need to make sure that they are also taking a deal in this, and then we need to also be saying, "Hey, we're gonna help too." So that's my kind of idea on that.
All right, so going into my final question, so what like for foreign relations, like what countries would you see as like really good potential allies or like allies that we should like work more with or like focus more on or like what are some countries that you think we should improve relations with or um, sometimes even like maybe if like you want to cut ties or something like that with a specific nation or
Okay, for countries we want to support economically and militarily, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Romania, Poland, Balkan countries, France, Germany, and then going to like our continent, Mexico probably if we want to stop a lot of kind of the issues that we've had with cartels and also immigration. If we want to stop that, we should get to the source of it, and also to South American countries because it isn't just Mexico. So we need to like stabilize some of these unfortunately bad things that have been going on. And to our Asian front, Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. So that's basically the countries that I would support. Countries that I would cut ties with. Israel, a lot of Middle Eastern states, so we could kind of diversify our economy a little bit more. Obviously, we import a lot of oil from them still, but like we need to diversify our economy. So if they have a crash in the oil economy, we don't. I like have it as much. So we need to cut ties with a lot of Middle Eastern countries. Obviously, Russia and Russia, China. I'm a bit moderate on India because they are not as much of a U.S. ally, but they are a growing economic power, so we still want to work with them as much, like more than we do right now. And then for African states, I'd say South Africa, Ethiopia, maybe. But that's kind of the idea of people, or sorry, no, South Africa and Ethiopia I would support, and then cut ties with I would say Sudan, South Sudan, and that kind of whole region, as long like until they get negotiations started and stop like the massacres and genocides going on. So all in all, that is the interview. This is a pretty long video, and it's taking up a lot of my storage on my computer. But hey, we had a good time. If you want to see more of these interviews with other people, and also Adrian again, I'm not cutting you off forever, I promise. But yeah, so that's gonna be it, guys. I'll see you guys later, and have a good day or not, I guess. So. No, but seriously, thank you for all the support. And even though there's a more popular The Political Kid, I just
subscribe to the political kid.
yeah, subscribe to The Political Kid.